Hello and welcome everyone to my channel where I offer fun guided digital art tutorials on Procreate using an iPad. New videos are put out every Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you like the channel, please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. If you have any advice for me on how I can better my videos, please leave it in the comment section below. Thanks, let's get into it. Step number one, we're going to create a new canvas and we're just going to do a screen size for this one. Step number two, we're going to download the template and the color palette from the description box below. And then step number 3 and 4, we're going to do at the same time, and it's working on the background and the skull. So we're going to insert the template as a new layer, and then we're going to add a layer on top of the template. We're going to use all the colors on the top row, starting with the very first color, and we're just going to fill in the base of the skull. I take the next color in the color palette and we fill in the eyes and a few of the darker points, the mouth and the nose. And then we work our way to the darker colors and I slowly just build up the contrasting colors. Don't worry about anything being perfect at this point. We are going to end up smudging out all of the colors and blending everything together just to get kind of like a base layer going. Don't forget to fill in those teeth using the lightest color in the color palette. And then I go around each tooth with a sandy color just to make it pop a little bit more. So I remove the template and then we're just left with what we've painted. And this is where I take that smudge tool and I smudge everything out, kind of into each other. You can kind of fix up any points that you messed up on or screwed up on at this point. So next we take that sandy color and we're just adding a few more subtle highlights, mostly in the eyes and the nose, around the mouth. We're just building up the detail layer at this point. Take again a little bit of a darker color and we're going to work our way slowly getting darker and darker with our colors. Here I grab a highlight. I just hit a few spots where I want it to be accentuated and a few spots on the teeth. If at any point this is too fast, please pause. You can pause it at any point and kind of catch up. I just do this so that the video doesn't end up being an hour and a half long because no one would watch it. So I take that black color and I just fill it in a couple spots as well. Always what I do is I grab kind of like the medium tones and then I use those to build up the detailing, and then I always end with whites and blacks. So right away here, I'm going to grab that smudge tool and we're just going to hit any points that are too obnoxious, that are standing out too much. Don't smudge it out too much, just kind of a little bit. And then I grab that dark brown color, a very fine brush, and I add some squiggles just to add a little bit more detail to the skull. This would signify like cracks and divots, The skull is kind of porous almost. So here we're going to duplicate the skull layer. If you slide it to the left, you press duplicate. Using that arrow function on the left-hand side, we can click it and then we can flip it vertically and create a reflection. Then we're going to blur it to about 11%. Step number 5, we're going to be working on the neon designs. So I wanted to group the skull and the reflection together just so it's easier. So if you drag and drop it on top of each other, it'll create a group. Then if you click it and on the left-hand side, you press flatten and then it connects everything together. So I added a new layer. We're starting a new section here. In the luminescence brush section, we pick the light pen and we want the brightest of the brightest neon colors. So we're going for like the Day of the Dead kind of designs, and you can look up and do whatever designs that you want. I lower the opacity, so I dim the skull just so we have a better view of what we're working with here. With a green color, I just add some vines. Towards the edges of the skull, you don't want it to be super bright, so I really lift the pen off of the iPad at that point. It is a bit tricky to get the designs right, but you can, play with it and undo as many times as you want. But it has a really cool effect here, and I love it. So typical colors that are used are orange, yellow, green, that kind of magenta, pink, purple, and blue. I didn't want to overdo it too much because I did want the skull to be visible, but you can do whatever you prefer. Step number 6, we're going to be working on the reflection in a bit. And then mostly we're going to be doing the animation portion right now. So the first thing we're going to do is turn the animation on. So that involves going to Action. You go to the Canvas section and you press Animation Assist on, and that leads you to the, if you look at the bottom, there will be a bunch of different slides. Each of those slides are a different layer. So you're going to start by taking the skull layer and duplicating it about 18 times, which sounds crazy. And we're going to lower the opacity by 5% on each layer. Trust me, it needs to be done this way, otherwise it doesn't dim fluidly. And you want to end at about 30%. So you don't want to end at 0 because then you won't be able to see the skull at all. So this is kind of what it would look like, what it looks like now. And then I'm duplicating the neon layer, flipping it like we did with the skull, just so we have the neon reflecting under the skull as well. And then I take the neon layer and I add it with the skull layer. And I want that to be one, and I flatten that together. So we have the neon with the skull flattened onto one layer. Here I'm labeling that last layer, and we're going to duplicate it 10 times. Essentially, why we're doing that is we want that frame to take up a longer portion of the video. And I do that the same thing with the neon skull portion. I do it about 10 times. We don't want it to be a quick little blip, but we want it to stay for a little bit in the video. Step number 8 is where we add a spider. So I'm going to label this top layer spider, just so we know what we're doing here. And we're going to be duplicating the spider layer a couple times as well. And each spider layer is a little movement of the spider. So he starts at the very top, and then you click the next slide. It'll show almost a shadow of the previous slide so you know where you're at. And you just bring him down a little bit by a little bit. So then he lands on the top of the skull here, and his web breaks off, or his webbing, and then kind of dangles and falls behind him. And this is pretty much the end of it. So I'll show you what it's going to look like here. And if you like it, please like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support. And if you have any ideas on what I can do next, you can leave it down in the comments below. Have a wonderful day, everyone.